I grew up in a one traffic light blink and it's gone kind of southern town in northeast Louisiana where people say good morning and hello. And from the moment that I can remember, I was very keenly interested in communication and speech contests. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons that I became interested in communication was because it's something that happened to me when I was 5 years of age. In particular, I heard my sister practicing a poem with the following lines. Dark brown is the river, golden is the sand, it flows along forever with trees on either hand. Now, at the time, at the age of 5, I had no idea where those words came, but I thought that they were the most moving, most beautiful, the most exquisite words I'd ever heard in my life. So at the age of 5, I got up the next morning, dressed myself, and went to school because I wanted to know from whence came those words and whether I would be able to recite words that were as moving and beautiful as the ones that my sister recited. And the next morning, my mother said, "You can't go to school because you are only 5 years of age," but I was pretty persistent, so I thought, I'm going again. So I went again and again until finally my mother, my father, and the teacher relented, and I started the school at the age of 5. So that was really the avenue that led me to communication. So I started my road to communication as a result of my eldest sister, Catherine. And from those early moments, I was always the person in my church, the New Hopewell Baptist Church in Bernice, Louisiana, who was given the task of giving talks, of giving presentations. And I can remember vividly that I always had to give a little talk on George Washington's birthday. And I also had to give Luke, the 2nd chapter from the Bible, Christmas time. And so my church and my school became laboratories for me, and they pruned me in a way that led to my interest in communication. So as a consequence, when I was in high school, I participated in declamation contests, and I was always interested in speech, and I went to what we call the rally at that time in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to participate in those activities. So when I went to Grambling University, there was no question about the fact that I would major in communication. And from Grambling College, I went to University of Wisconsin, and from University of Wisconsin, I taught at University of Arkansas Pine Bluff about 2-3 years, and then I went to Indiana University and was a student, and I've been there ever since. It's a welcoming place, Central States, despite the fact that Central States is one of the most homogenous associations in the United States of America. Because, as you know, speech making began in the Midwest, and so the Big Ten universities all have schools of speech and departments of communication, but they don't have that many African American people, although I think that we have done far better than when I was coming along. So I was very pleased to know that there is an association that is so welcoming and so reinforcing and so inviting that it was willing to elect me as president, and especially in light of the fact that there were probably about 10 to 12 African Americans actively involved in the association at the time. So I thought that bode well for Central States. And I thought it bode well for how we look at human behavior and how we interact with people. And I thought it bode well for the fact that one should assume goodwill and give people the benefit of the perceptual doubt. And that's one of my guiding principles. And so I bring that with me to Central States, and I believe that I mirrored that belief to other members of the association, and that was probably very, very helpful in getting me elected. And also the fact that I've always been a very hard worker, and I've always been very keenly interested in the association. I've had sort of a love affair with Central States. It's a beautiful place, and there are lots of beautiful people, and I have lots of really exquisite friends who are members of the association. It's provided me with an opportunity to interact with so many glorious people and to learn from them in terms of their ideas, in terms of the way they present their ideas, and in terms of them giving back to the association. And I've been a beneficiary of that substantive giving back that has been so omnipresent in the association. So this particular year, I think it was 2001, some of my colleagues and I, including professors Ellen Gold, University of Kansas, and Noblessa, Cynthia Lande, who passed away in February, God rest her soul. But there were about 6 women, and we decided that we would go to Maisonette restaurant, French restaurant, that is no longer in existence, but it was a 5-star restaurant at the time, so we thought it would be marvelous to go to this restaurant. So I said to Ellen Gold, why don't you make a reservation? And so Ellen thought that she had made a reservation. She declares to this day that she had made a reservation. But that can be contested. Right. But in any case, when we got to the restaurant, the maitre d' couldn't find a reservation for us. So he said, well, I know what I'll do, because if you go to a 5-star restaurant, you know, they're accustomed to treating people beautifully. So he said, no, I know what I'll do. I have a party coming in at around 8 o'clock. I will seat you in their area, at their table, if you promise that you will leave by a certain time. And I don't remember the exact time. It was around 8 o'clock, perhaps. So since my friends and I had not seen each other in a long time, we were just having a marvelous time. Rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat. We were talking, catching up, talking about where we've been, Paris and Africa and all these places, and we simply lost time. And suddenly the maitre d' arrives on the scene, and he says, and I quote, I'll never forget it, he says to the whole group, "Did Madame ask for a car to be brought around?" And at that moment, everybody said, oh my God, we have been here far too long. But I appreciated the fact that his tact, his ability to communicate so effectively, I just appreciated that. And I have used that example in my classrooms when I talk about economic class and how class is performed. And I just thought it was beautiful, because if one had been at another kind of restaurant, the person might have come and said, it's time to go. And I just appreciated the fact that he was so implicit and so cultivated. I just published a book titled Empathy in the Global World, an Intercultural Perspective. And so compassion is a skill and a trait that I think everybody ought to have. And I can see that compassion in the Central States Association. And I can see in Central States the idea that we sponsor goodwill, and that we sponsor a kind of exhilarating human enterprise that says something like, we should make a sufficient effort of imagination, and with that sufficient effort of imagination, we can bring lots of people into our world, and we can find out what it's like to live by someone else's light. And that's really where I think the hub of humanity ought to be, is finding out what it's like to live by someone else's light.